The real estate community has been blowing up after hearing the news about what the NAR settlement was with the lawsuits regarding the commissions that kind of happened last year. And in today's video, I want to kind of put these in layman terms for you guys, whether you're selling or buying, or even if you're just interested in real estate, can kind of understand what's actually happening from an outsider's perspective instead of using all this industry jargon that so many videos on YouTube are using. So I'm going to do this a little bit quick, a little bit friendly, and if you have any questions, drop them below in the comments. I'll be sure to respond to them. So let's get right into it. So first I want to touch upon what's actually changing with the seller side first, then we'll go buyer side, and then we'll go the MLS changes. So first on the seller side, right now when you go to sell a house, you start calling around real estate agents, interview them, find the one you like, and when you go to sign a listing agreement, what you're doing is you're agreeing to hire that agent with that brokerage to sell your house at a certain percent fee is usually the typical way they do it. Now, when you're doing that, you are paying at closing that broker that percentage to sell your house, which they did. Then that broker takes some money and splits it however it needs to be split, one going to the selling agent, one going to the buyer's agent, and that's how it works. So what this is going to do is the settlement is wanting to decouple commissions, meaning that the seller and the selling agent are going to agree on one thing, and then what happens on the buyer side, they don't care about because it's not part of the selling. So when you go to list a house now, you'll be agreeing to a price of what you're going to be paying your listing agent, but you can still technically offer commission to the buyer's agent. It just can't be publicly displayed or offered simply. Basically, you have to be calling the listing agent asking if they're offering anything from the seller. So the reason for this is because people were claiming that real estate agents were fixing their commissions and they weren't really negotiable when you went to sell a house, which I just find completely untrue because real estate commissions have always been negotiable. Literally every listing appointment I've been on has always negotiated the commissions. Now there's usually an industry standard, yeah, but that's just like every market. Whatever you're selling, there's usually an industry standard around a price. Like you're not going to be seeing an iPhone over here for $1,000 and then the same exact thing, like the same quality and stuff for like $100. You know something's wrong with the $100 one. So of course there's an industry standard, but I know people who charge 8%, I know people who charge 5%, I know people who can charge 3% depending how badly they want the listing. So I don't find that being the case in any way. But they also claimed, well, buyers aren't really getting the right to negotiate their commissions with the actual agent they're hiring. And okay, there's a little bit to that, but I've been through multiple real estate closings because I've been in the business over 3.5 years, and I've never had a buyer come up to me after closing, during closing, any time and say, hey, I don't think you deserve that much money, or hey, I don't think you're getting enough money, or hey, I wish we could have decided what you... I've never had that happen. Ever. Ever. They just kind of understand this is how it works because, well, buyer's agency technically seems free to them. So since I just shifted to buyer's agency, let's go right into that and what actually happened on this side of the things. So right now, like I said, buyer's agency almost seems like a free thing. Like it's just thrown in when you go to buy a house. Hey, I get a buyer's agent and that's the way it works so I can get representation and know what I'm doing. And that's the way it was built into work. But now they want to decouple these things because right now when you go to sign a buyer's agency agreement with a real estate agent like me, we agree on a price that you're going to pay me, usually a percentage of the sales price. Typically, it's around 2%, almost exactly what they offer through the MLS. So when you go to closing, well, guess what? That 2% that you agreed on is getting paid by the seller's concessions. But now they want to switch that up because seller only pays for the seller's stuff unless they offer something else, but again, you can't say that now. So now the buyer is going to be solely responsible for, say, the 2%. And this is where it's kind of getting thrown in because, the buyers have the right to negotiate what they're paying their agent, but with like a first-time home buyer, I'm not being rude with this, but you don't really know what to expect or what you want out of an agent because it's the first time you've ever used a real estate agent or ever bought a house. So how do you know what's what, and how do you know what you should be paying for them? Because a lot of people think real estate agents are overpriced, but it's also the biggest thing you're ever going to purchase in your life, and you have no clue how to do it. Don't you want someone guiding you through that? So it feels like this is almost going to deter buyers' representation, because they might just want to go use a listing agent and not have to pay anyone, because if they use that, well, they have no representation, but the listing agent's going to do it because they get paid from the listing side. So they'll just do it anyways. Now, when the buyer agrees to this, I don't think they're going to have to come up with it in cash, because a lot of things I've read in the articles is stating that doesn't want to be the case, because everyone already knows with home affordability, it's kind of already hard to come up with that. So what they want to do is either build it into the concessions at the sale, meaning the seller is going to pay for them, or you get an extra loan. I haven't heard a bunch of details on that. That I just find silly. Why would you give even more debt to someone who's going to buy a house? I don't like that idea at all. But that's the way it's going. And the last thing I want to touch on is the MLS details, because right now you can't list something in the MLS without offering some type of concession and pay to the buyer side of the transaction. It can be a penny, it can be a percent, it can be 2%, whatever it is, you have to offer something to be able to list it. But with this, you will not be able to list it publicly offering anything. Again, people can call you and be like, hey, are you offering a commission for this? Hey, are you offering any concessions for the agent? And they can answer it on that, but they can't just put it on the site. So that just seems silly in my eyes. So the biggest thing here, again, I wanted to make this video short. I wanted to make it digestible for you guys. And the way it is like not a ton of stuff is changing. It's just going to be how the buyer pays the agent. And I hope buyers really understand how important the buyer agent is to them, because I haven't been in so many transactions where I've been negotiating either sales price, closing costs, repairs, all this stuff. And I'm not saying people are incapable, but they don't do it ever. So are you really going to be good at it when you go to buy a house? You probably want to pay that person, but if you have come out without cash and you just don't have the money, people are going to forego that option. So what do you think? What is your understanding of this? How do you interpret it? If you're a home buyer right now, are you mad? Are you happy that, are you mad that you now have to be responsible for paying it? Or are you happy that now you get to negotiate? Let me know what your thoughts are, because this got everyone up in arms. So I hope this was good. I know it was a little quick. I was a little speedy with it, but I think it wrapped it up nice and tight. So I will catch you guys on next week's video.